All right, so I'm here with Lori. Tell us a little bit about the challenges that you're having with her.
I don't think she likes me, one, so I think it makes it hard for me to catch her. A lot of times if I go to rub on her ears, you can see what she doesn't like that, so I have to really work up rather slow, and I'm not used to that. She's hard to catch is the big thing. She doesn't like to be caught. My biggest fear is that if I have to sell her because I can't have that connection, who's going to take care of her? Who's going to be good to her?
Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. We got an interesting one for you here. We have a lady that has a horse that she's really struggling with in a lot of different things. The main thing that she's really having challenges with is catching her and getting her haltered up. And so we're gonna see if we can dive in and figure it out. All right. So my first thought is, like, when a horse, we kind of have like a protocol here. When a horse comes in for training that's hard to catch, they have to understand basic communication and stuff. So it sounds like, from what you've described to me, that she has quite a few holes in her foundation and in her groundwork and that sort of thing. So those are things that we're going to need to do anyways. And those are things that you teach the horse, you know, online, maybe even playing with them at Liberty in a round pen. But then there's like, well, what do you do when you first halter her up? And so basically, I want to try to create two scenarios. One scenario is where we communicate to her that the relief is with the human, and that would be a good choice for her to make, okay? And so that means her understanding that it's gonna be more uncomfortable for her to leave. So that's only half the equation. The other half of the equation is, how can we get her to want to be with us, okay? And so for a lot of horses that are as green as she is, you know, putting pressure on them and moving their feet is not gonna make her want to be with us. But if we can, what we do here is, when we have a horse that's a bit hard to catch, of course we're doing all the groundwork and stuff, but once we get them haltered up, we go eat grass, or we take them to their feed. And so instead of just giving them their feed and walking away, or turning them out on a pasture and then not being involved in that, we say, you get that when you're with us. And so that adds, you know, 10, 15 minutes to the training session, but it's a really easy, passive way for the horse to be interested in getting caught, because there's something sweet on the other side of that at first glance. Now, that means more to some horses than others. So if you only did that strategy without the other stuff that I'm talking about, you would only, again, get half the results. So we really need to come at it both, because there's gonna be a lot of people in the comments saying, well, just give her more cookies and she'll be easy to catch. But there's a lot of horses that'll learn to grab a cookie and run off, or not even be interested in the feed at all. And so we really need to cover our bases on both sides, because part of it is, if she's a little worried about things touching her, especially around her head and neck, like her ears, that's going to make it challenging, because that's right where you need to be at to be haltering her.
Right away, and we didn't know it, and it was crazy.
So you see, when I reached to pet her there, she would rather not. Like, this wasn't a positive thing to her. You can see she tries to move away, and that fits along with the ear thing. So that is likely a factor in one of the things that's making her hard to catch, is she just doesn't love being handled there. And so that's something that she's going to have to get a little bit more tolerant of. And so one of the games that I would encourage you to play is what I call sticky hands, where wherever her head goes, you follow it, and when her head is where you need it to be, then your hand leaves. And so I'm not going to be doing that as a way to comfort her. Like, a lot of horses will pet them to say, hey, good boy, good girl, good job. She may not appreciate that, but the reason I'm going to be spending time there is to actually get her to tolerate it more, because she has to be okay here with this. Like, there, she kind of looked off, so I'll bring her head back, and then maybe even ask her to lower her head right here, and then take my hand away. So when we're playing with a horse like this on the ground, I'm not going to take my hand away when she moves her head around, because she's got to get in the habit of leaving it here. And then I'll ask her to lower her head and then retreat. Now, another thing that we can do is practice a lot of draw. So every horse on the ground, I'm very intentional about how much draw or drive I work on. So some horses are in your space and you got to push them out, and you got to focus more on drive. Every horse needs to know both draw and drive, but it sounds like if she's hard to catch, we need to spend more time working on draw. And so one of the things I'm going to do is back away from her, but add pressure to it, and ask her to catch up to me and come find me under a little bit of adversity here. So there, she made an effort to get closer, and now she found relief. And there she licked in too, so she got relief being closer to me here. And now I'm going to move, and I'm going to move with some slack in the rope. And so the idea is that she should have been with me every step. As soon as I took a step, I wanted her to be there with me. And so she needs to now catch up. She made a little effort there to get straighter towards me, so I just got a little quieter. I call that like a micro release. And then I'll ask again. And so I want this pressure from the stick and string to mean catch up to me. And I'm only using the halter as if she runs into it. So my first cue is me retreating with my feet. Then the second is this, and then the third is the rope. Whatever you use first, you'll always have to use. So if I were to go to the rope first, I'd always have to have a rope on. Well, if you don't have a rope on when you're trying to catch her, and so that's not going to work. You just have your body language, and then you could also bring a stick and string with you. And see there, I like that. See, I moved and she right away started to hook on. Good. Oh, I like that. So there, as soon as I moved away, then she was right there with me and getting closer. To me, this horse doesn't need any drive right now. For like 5 to 10 training sessions, I would just do draw. But I would encourage you to get that to the point where when you reach for her head, the first response is for her to leave it there and stay here. And I like that she just got soft with that. I'm going to focus primarily on the issue that you messaged me about, which was the catching. But to me, it's pretty clear that she needs the whole foundation, you know. And on my Patreon page, I have a whole fundamental series. There's like 6 or 7 videos on the ground and in the saddle that are just things that I think every horse should know. And so if I get a new horse like me, if I bought her, I would take her through that and just check everything out. So some things I would spend 2 seconds on, other things I would spend 20 days on, depending on where the holes were and what they were good and didn't know. But to me, those are the core things that every horse needs to have an understanding of, to be safe to be around and to be kind of set up for success for anything else we may teach them in the future. All right, so we shifted over here to the round pen, and the first thing I'm going to do is just test how she feels about haltering. So if I tame a Mustang or something and I get a halter on them, that does not mean that the next day you can go out and just halter them up. So one of the things that we do is we practice haltering them once a halter's on them. You put the halter on and then you practice it, and we see if there's any holes kind of just in that haltering process. And do you reach over her neck like this to halter? Yeah. Okay. And so that feels pretty easy. Like so it's getting to this.
Stands once you get your hands on.
Yeah. Now you can see she's thinking about leaving quite a bit. You know, like she gets scared of things and then she immediately thinks I should probably go away from the human. And so I'm gonna show the round pen technique today, but if she was here in training with me, I probably wouldn't do this for at least 5 sessions. I'm trying to show, give you as homework to what to follow up with, but I would highly recommend that little game that I played on the ground. Those 2 things will go a long ways with her, along with doing a lot of other things that don't apply to catching her, but they apply to her understanding pressure, her getting a good foundation, all those things. And that's what I'm saying is I have all those videos on Patreon. And I can't make the video about doing everything. It's got to be kind of a more of a specific focus. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But I'm going to show it to you today. So I call this game the Find Your Herd game. So it's essentially the exact same game that we just played online, only now with her having this round pen. I think is 65 feet diameter, 65 feet to leave if she wants to. And the goal is at liberty for her to choose to connect with me. And so that's going to be the game that we're going to play. But you can see just the feel that she has about not wanting to be touched there and not being great at coming forward off the stick with a halter. I would highly recommend when you get home that you focus on that for a while. Now you are going to have to catch her, to do all that, but that would be my primary focus. And so like right there, by her just immediately leaving, you can see she's not finding relief with the human. She's thinking the relief is over there. And so a lot of people have used round penning techniques to get horses, to come catch them, but I feel like I found a more of a streamlined way to do this. And so all I'm going to do is show her that she's going and eating grass, so we know she likes grass. So far, your homework when you get home, put a halter on her no matter what it takes to get it done. Get your halter on her, take her and eat grass. You got to spend 10 minutes of undemanding time. And ideally, it would be letting her eat. But you would like to be near her. I wouldn't be letting her eat 20 feet away from me while I'm sitting down. I would be standing by her in that area around her shoulder and neck.
With feet, I hold the pan and
Yes, exactly. So that's step one. Step two is do the things I just showed with getting her to connect. And then the third step is going to be this one. So I'm going to be strategic here, and I'm going to pick a spot where she's very clearly not looking at me, and I'm going to go and own her space. Now, what you have to understand is this is natural to horses, okay? If I was the alpha horse in here, I'm not just going to say, hey, you, come on over and eat with me. What does an alpha horse do when you put them out in a new pasture? They drive them. They go drive them. Now, see there, I went to step towards her and she turned and faced me, and so I'm not going to do anything there. I'm just going to keep working my way around. What I'm looking for is to put pressure on her when she's thinking to the outside of the round pen. Now, she has some interest in me based on the games that you've been playing with her, and so I'm just going to wait and pick my moment. Me going and owning her space and putting pressure on her when she's looking at me would be a horrible time to do this. So the overall theme, regardless of all the techniques and the sequence I give you, is make the wrong thing difficult, the right thing easy, right? Like make it uncomfortable for her thinking away from me, make it relief when she's here with me. But by me putting a little bit more pressure on when, see now there's an opportunity. So she was thinking to the outside, I went and put a little pressure on her. And I like that caused her to turn and look at me. That's a good choice. But now my job here is to do absolutely nothing. And I want her to know after I spank the spot and own her space, she's got some choices to make. She can turn and face me, she can walk up to me, but I want her to be sure that there's going to be a little pause here for her to have some processing time. It's not just chase them, chase them, chase them. Because this is about a conversation of showing her it's uncomfortable to be over there. The relief is in here with the herd. You see how the nose is being connected? Now there she chose to leave. I'm going to let her leave. This is the other part. Let her get committed to it. I want her to leave all the way. Now I'm going to go, oh. She turned to look in, and that's why I pulled up there for a second. But that time she chose to walk away, and she ran into more pressure. Now I got to give her process time. Because that one she felt more squeezed by me because she looked in and then I stopped, but she felt a lot of pressure, so then she turned all the way away and then I continued. But that moment there we go, that's a better response. That moment where I said let her leave is really critical because I was fairly close to her, and if she had taken one step away and then I went running at her, that would have been way too much pressure. By letting her leave, it let the mistake grow where it was very clear I put pressure on because you went all the way over there. And then it gives her more time for me to go to them. So they kind of understand what's happening versus them feeling ambushed. So again, because we got her facing up here, she's linking to the inside, which is a good starting point. A lot of horses don't even start here. I'm going to do my side to side here. And I'm doing this side to side because it's human nature to be really direct line and go straight to them. This confuses their defense system a little bit by walking side to side. Now there she took a step towards me, and so I'm going to give her relief and choose to walk away. So I'm rewarding her mindset each time. So depending on what mindset she's in, I'm adding pressure or taking pressure away. And I'm just going to keep offering this to her, and she's just got a choice to make. Eventually, she'll take me up on this. There, she took a step forward, and I'll go away. But she is fairly committed to this, so I can see how this would be a challenge that you've been having with her. But she's a pretty sensitive horse, and so I think that's where a lot of the issues are stemming from, of her needing more foundation, and especially based on her sensitivity. But I do think it's pretty achievable too. She's kind of missing some things. So this is better. She's letting me get closer here and staying connected. And then the next thing I'm going to be looking for is two things. We're going to offer her the horseman's handshake, which I'm sure, see there, she got a couple steps towards me. And then I'll also be looking for the hind feet to disengage for her to face me. So I'll start signing her up by walking further over and kind of being like right here. Now, also, I love this because people hear me talk about this all the time, that if a horse needs to relax, you need to yield the hindquarters. Now right there, she moved with her front feet first, not her hind feet, which tells me she's still at a fairly high level of prey animal mode. If you get your hands on a Mustang for the first time, like a completely wild horse, they will pivot on their hindquarters and do a perfect turn on the haunches and never move those hind feet. They'll just walk their front end around because they're still tense, they're ready to run. So she did that move and came to face me while still being ready to run if she had to. So she wasn't ready to turn loose to her hindquarters moving. That's why she moved her front feet first, not her hind feet. And that's when I say she's a sensitive horse. You could also say, you know, a more right brain horse, anything like that. Now, there's a decision I have to make here. I chose to stand here and keep talking when I could have walked away. And if she was a horse that I felt like had trouble standing still, like standing still was hard for her, like she just wanted to move her feet all the time, I would have walked away. That would allow her to move her feet while following me and being right. She is a horse that is pretty happy to stand still. She just gets tense and nervous about it, right? And so me standing still and just being with her here is the win. I don't need to be walking away from her here. She could actually see that as even more pressure. So we're just gonna hang out.
I'm impressed.
So let her leave. Let her leave. Again, I can't stress enough how important that timing is. That was big, because that meant she's letting her guard down a little bit for her to disengage versus moving the front feet. These are the little things that add up and make the difference, you know. See how she got a little worried about me being all the way over here, but then she was able to disengage those hindquarters again. And I'm basically now I'm just going to keep pestering her with this until she steps forward towards me. So it's like if she wants to train me to be completely quiet, she needs to do what she's doing now. Because when I was approaching her hindquarters, that was pressure. And so this would be the game that you would also play when you're trying to catch her now, is now you can have a little conversation about, hey, turn and face me. Because you didn't really have that step off before. Now there she's licking and chewing, getting relief, so now I'll come up and offer her the horseman's handshake. See if she wants to connect with me. Nope. And so there, if you offer it to them and they don't take you up on it, you don't want to reach out and touch them there. There she checked in with me, gave me a smell. But you can see her there, she got a little defensive about me reaching to touch her, and that's where you got to put all this together. You can see she's a little worried about that move. So this is where it's not just one thing, it's like you got to put all these little pieces together. Does that make sense? And that's why it's been challenging. But I'm pretty happy with this because I feel like I've figured out the pieces right away. And so again, one piece is when you're online, you need to be able to walk up and pet her and touch her everywhere and have her not get defensive about it. So this is better than what I started with. Because you were saying that like she's gotten better, but it's still you go to touch her and she's like, she gets guarded.
She gets real bracey.
Yeah, bracey, and which is a defensive mindset. So when she's pivoting on her hindquarters to face me, she's still in a slightly defensive mindset. She's not 100% committed to it. And so those are just little tells that tell us where she's at. So just reaching out and touching her's got to get there. If she tries to leave, that's when you're going to block her. And then doing more of backing up and doing what we'd call a backwards S pattern. So you back up and you have her follow you. But see, when I do this, see how she tries to put me on the right side? She's got to get to where you can flow from this side. And where the pressure is, I don't want to do it with her because she's being a good girl now. But you're thinking about the rib cage and the hindquarters. Then you switch. So see how this side she bends and gives? She's bracey on this side. So she wants to be straight. She doesn't want to bend her rib cage on this side. Can you see that, what I'm talking about? And there she took a deep breath, so then we'll leave her alone. And so just a lot of retreating, backing up, changing sides there. And then the find your herd game, and then once you get a halter on, go eat grass. She got 10 minutes of undemanding time once the halter's on.